first question is, what was the hardest model that you produced?
The hardest model that we've produced has probably been a New Haven i5, and the reason for that is it was our first hybrid model. It was a brass body placed on a die-cast chassis, and that was the first of that type in the industry, and so it took us a long time to get all the features to work just right. And one of the things that we discovered making that is that a lot of the trouble that people have with brass models, they're kind of finicky, was that by making the brake shoes and the sand lines out of brass, as soon as someone would touch those, they would short against the wheels, and then it wouldn't really, it would cause a short. And so what we figured out in the process of making that model was to make those parts plastic. We paint them so they look, you can't tell that they're plastic, but then if they touch the wheels, it doesn't cause a short. So,
my second question is, what is the difference between a pre-production and final model?
Well, when we are in the process of making a model, there are several stages along the way. When we first finish the tooling, we'll make a sample, and then we'll test it, use it for our engineering purposes of getting the sounds to sound just right, and testing software and all that type of stuff. Then we'll make a bunch of changes to it. We'll make what we call a pre-production sample, and that's one where most of the things should be correct. We may still change it after that, but it's a hand-built model. They don't always work quite as well. They're not quite as reliable. And then after we go to production, we make all the changes. We go to production. Our production models are all the same, machine assembled, and much more finished product.
Wow. Question 3 is, out of all the models that you have produced over the years, which one would have to be the most detailed you've produced? The most detailed.
The most detailed we've ever produced is probably a Pennsylvania Railroad Q2.
Diesel locomotive or steam?
It's a steam locomotive, and you look at that model. There's just a lot to it. There's the drivers. It's a rigid articulated model, or it's very complex. A lot of parts, a lot of moving parts. Very highly detailed. Again, a brass body. So that's probably the most detailed and complex one we've ever built.
Care to show me what, which models you have made over the years?
Sure.
Which one?
I've got some new ones coming up. This is a real popular one in this area. This is the Milwaukee Road 261. Brand new. That's this is what we talked about earlier, a pre-production model. That'll be out within about 3 months. Over here, we've got a first sample of a Pennsylvania Railroad Pennsylvania Railroad turbine, and this doesn't chuff like a normal steam engine. It's turbine driven, and you see the big steam turbine on the sides. They make a completely different sound than most steam engines. Over here we've got another S2, but this is a Great Northern S2. Again, this is a pre-production sample of a product that will be available early part of the year. This is an NMW I6B, and behind that we've got a New Haven I4.
And that's just for steam locomotives. Any diesels?
Sure, quite a few.
Care to show me?
Sure. Oh, actually, this is something interesting to see. This is our new water tower with sounds.
Oh, wow.
And the way it works, you push the button. The spout comes down, it makes the sound of water rushing out, and if you push the button, it would come back up. If you don't push the button, after a little while it'll make a sound like it's overflowing, and you'll hear the crew panicking and going to shut off the water and whatever. So, fun little product. We tried to make it as detailed as we could and get it, it's kind of semi-weathered from the factory, so it doesn't look like new plastic.
Any diesel locomotives that were pre-production?
We don't have any pre-production models, but we've got, these are all production models. This is our RSD-15 here. We've got a low nose and a high nose version of it, side by side. This is an SD-7. Burlington. We've got some E-units, E7s, 8s, 9s back there.
Ah. And then my other question is, what year was the company founded and formed?
We were founded in about 2001. Came out with our first model later that year, and we've been making models ever since.
Wow. How much effort does it take to make a model, such as an EMD?
It takes quite a bit. First, we've got to do quite a few hours of research to get all the details right, do the drawings, get the colors right, the details for each locomotive. Then we've got to go out and record the sounds, get the sounds right. Then when we're actually ready to start with building, the tooling for a model like this is about as much as a house, is how much it costs. It's several $100,000 to make the molds to do one locomotive. So we build those molds, we make the parts, and put them together, we perfect them, and then we go to production.
Wow. Were there any models that were announced and planned for next year, but then were called off? I mean, canceled?
None that I'm aware of. Sometimes we'll delay a model until we get enough orders. A good example of that is we've got a Texas and Pacific 210-2. Texas and Pacific is apparently a less popular road name. We would have built that last year, except that we didn't have quite enough orders, so we delayed it till we got enough orders, and now we're going to build it about halfway through next year.
Ah. And then final question is, would you recommend Broadway Limited to anyone who loves model railroading in HO? Would you recommend?
Of course. Broadway Limited was the first company in HO to include the sound systems in the locomotive. And almost all of our locomotives are equipped that way now, so they're, for any model railroader, they are ready to run out of the box. You don't really have to do anything to them. They come with engineer figures in the cab, they come painted, they come with real coal loads, they come ready to go, so I would recommend it to anyone.
Well, thank you very much, and would you like to say anyone to the viewers who are watching this interview?
I'd like to say thank you for your support, and we enjoy what we do, we enjoy building these models, and thank you for buying them.
Thank you for your interview. Thank you a lot. I'll be sure to put this up, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's watching would be interested in Broadway Limited. Maybe, I don't know. But thank you for the interview. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.